he easily triumphed over Nikki Haley, the primary outcome suggested that he still faces long-term challenges with suburban voters, centrists, and independents. Donald J. Trump's formidable level of Republican backing propelled him to victory over a field of presidential primary contenders in less than 2 months. However, he has yet to win over a small but pivotal segment of voters, those who denied him a second term in 2020. His decisive wins in the primaries, which included more than a dozen victories on Tuesday that forced Nikki Haley out of the race, have overshadowed his enduring difficulties with suburban residents, self-identified moderates or independents, and Republicans who supported Joseph R. Biden Jr. in 2020. On Tuesday, Mr. Trump lost suburban precincts in Virginia despite winning the state by an impressive 28 percentage points. In North Carolina, his 51-point victory was tempered by narrower margins in the highly educated and affluent suburbs around Charlotte and Raleigh. While many Republican strategists anticipate that most Haley supporters will eventually back the party's nominee, Mr. Trump's failure to attract these voters less than 4 years after they prevented him from securing a second term in the White House raises urgent questions about what he can do in the next 8 months to win them over. He does not appear particularly concerned about this challenge, having recently threatened to ostracize donors supporting his rivals from his political movement. On Wednesday, he took to social media to declare that Ms. Haley got crushed last night in record-setting fashion, while inviting all of the Haley supporters to join the greatest movement in the history of our nation. Mr. Trump's inability to expand his support poses one of the biggest obstacles to his party's efforts to regain the presidency. Notably, Ms. Haley seemed to be a stronger candidate for November. Surveys, including a recent New York Times Siena College poll, indicated that she would have had an easier time defeating Mr. Biden. But Republican voters are not shying away from Mr. Trump's electoral risks. They are embracing them. Throughout the Republican primary race and in this week's Super Tuesday contests, Mr. Trump secured overwhelming victories. Supporters rallied around him even as he faced 91 felony charges in 4 criminal cases, and despite disappointing election results for the party under his leadership in 2018, 2020, and 2022. His triumph in Iowa last month, the first nominating contest, was declared before many caucus attendees had even participated, reflecting the aura of inevitability he brought to the race. Record turnout was observed in the Republican primaries in New Hampshire and South Carolina, largely due to Trump supporters, and he swept every Super Tuesday state except Vermont, where Ms. Haley prevailed due to the state's large proportion of college-educated voters. The primary states have taught us a valuable lesson. There is a significant segment of Republican voters who sought a choice in this primary process, and these are the people the former president needs to win over by November, remarked Rob Godfrey, who served as a senior aide to Ms. Haley during her tenure as governor of South Carolina and as a senior advisor to Governor Henry McMaster's 2022 re-election campaign. He can achieve it by running a disciplined campaign focused on policy rather than personality, one that highlights his opponent's perceived failures. Mr. Trump's campaign plans to prioritize turning out supporters while seeking ways to appeal to disaffected Republicans. The former president has been reconsidering his stance on abortion rights, particularly as Republicans continue to face backlash following the overturning of Roe v. Wade by a conservative Supreme Court majority he helped shape. Meanwhile, Mr. Biden is grappling with retaining his winning coalition from 2020. He is notably less popular than he was 4 years ago, and polls indicate that Democrats are hesitant about his re-election bid. Only 83% of voters who backed Mr. Biden in 2020 indicated they would do so again this year, a sharp contrast to the 97% of Trump supporters intending to stick with the former president, according to last week's Times Siena poll. Challenges such as Mr. Biden's age, his support for Israel during its conflict in Gaza, and lingering economic concerns have eroded his support among young Democrats, black voters, and progressives. We can draw some insights from these primaries. Trump has re-energized his base, observed Adam Geller, a veteran Republican pollster who has worked on past Trump campaigns and super PACs. But beyond that, it remains to be seen because public polls indicate that moderate voters in the general election aren't ready to hand out accolades to either Trump or Biden just yet.